Hey guys, what's up? It's Joe here at Deranged. So selling your side-by-side can make you nervous. How do you know you're selling it for the right price? How do you find a good buyer? Where do you even sell the dang thing? How do you sell a machine if you have a bank lien on it? Those are just a few of the questions that we're going to answer today. Right up front, I'm going to say this. This video is meant to be a discussion. Right after you click subscribe, then click the notification bell. Go down to the comments section and share your thoughts and experience down there. You very well could have an experience that's going to help somebody else as they're trying to sell their machine. If you have a nightmare experience that you want others to be aware of, it's a great place to share it as well. We want this to be a resource for others as they try to get a fair price for their rig as they try to sell it online. And hopefully have a good experience through the sales process. Beyond some basic research, much of the information in this video is going to be from my own experience. I purchased a machine used, and I'm in the process of selling my machine used right now, and hoping to upgrade to a new machine here in the near future. Over the next few minutes, we're going to cover the following. First, how do you price your machine? Next, what do you need to do to prepare your machine to sell it? We'll also take a look at where you can list your machine, and we'll talk a little bit about title transfer and the actual process of selling it, whether you're working with a bank and a new owner, or you hold the title and you're just working to transfer it to a new owner. So let's start with figuring out how you're going to price your machine. If you've ever sold a used car before, likely the first place you're going to turn to find a value is the Kelley Blue Book or the NADA guide, both of which can give you some idea as to the value of your machine. But from experience, if you do that, you may end up selling it for less than you can actually get. These guides, the Kelley Blue Book and the NADA guide, they do provide some value, especially to banks as they decide how much to lend on a UTV. However, if you do want to get a true value for your machine, there's a better way. You'll want to start by getting comps for your machine. Trust me when I say this, there are plenty of people selling the same machine that you have. They may not be right in your local area, but there's probably going to be some around you that are selling the same machine that you have. And like it or not, the market decides how much your machine is worth. As for where you can find those machines listed, there are plenty of them out there. Some of the most common ones are Craigslist, Facebook, OfferUp, or other regional classified websites like KSL.com in Utah. You can also check sites like ATV Trader. They're a site where you have to pay to list your machine, and people go specifically looking for ATVs on that site. Tracking down comps will give you a good idea of what other people are selling the same machine for. So let's take a minute to talk about accessories. Many of us, we spend a ton of money on accessories for our machines. From new tires and wheels to light bars and bumpers and stereos, custom seats and anything else. We spend a ton of money on our machines every year. The unfortunate truth about accessories is you're never gonna get out what you put in. It's really tough to determine the value of accessories, but there are a few formulas that I've seen out there to help you determine the value of the accessories that you put on your machine. A good rule of thumb that I heard is add up the total dollar amount for the accessories that you put on your machine, and then take 30 to 50% of that value and add it to a stock machine's value to get your potential sell price. With that being said, your experience may be different. If you've sold a machine in the past, share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you get out of your accessories? So to sum up pricing your machine properly, the best way to do it is to find comps for your machine, add up your accessories that you put on your machine and give that a value, add it to the price of a stock machine, and there's your price. Okay, now let's talk about prepping your machine for sale. To prep your machine for sale, you need to put yourself in the shoes of a buyer. Paying attention to the details, like making sure you have a really clean machine, and changing the fluids could be the difference in whether or not you sell your machine. Here's just a couple of the details that should not be overlooked. As I mentioned before, I'm in the process of selling my machine, and rather than just tell you what to do, I'm going to take you around my machine and show you what I did. Okay, let's start out with cleaning the machine. So first and foremost, I'll be upfront and tell you I'm not a professional detailer. I do the best I can. But if you want to see a professional detailer or somebody who goes to the extreme to clean their machine, check out Garrett's Terex. It is pretty insane how clean that thing is after 2.5 years of use. With that said, I want to show you a few things to pay attention to while you're detailing your machine. Okay, one of the first things you want to pay attention to is your plastics, your black plastics that you have going around the machine. So most Can-Ams and Polarises and other machines, they have plenty of this black plastic around them. That black plastic, especially if you're in a hot western state, will begin to gray over time or get mud stained or whatever else. So you're going to want to shine it up and make it look new. It's really easy to do. I personally use SC1. Some people use Mud Love as well. I've heard it's a great product. You'll probably see a video on it coming out soon. But other people use like Pledge and other things to clean it up. But you'll want to start by cleaning up and making sure your plastic looks good. So when the buyer sees it, it looks new. Next, as far as cleanliness goes, you'll want to make sure the inside is cleaned as well. Mine's not perfect yet. I got a little bit more detailing to do, but you want to make sure everything's wiped down, all the dust is clean, all the mirrors are cleaned off, and make sure it looks as if it's ready to sell. In short, go around your machine and make sure there's no mud stains on it, make sure there's no oil or gas splashed around it. Make sure it's nice and clean so you make a good impression. You only get one chance at a first impression, at least I think that's what they say. So make sure it's nice and clean when you have a buyer coming to check it out. The next thing you're going to want to do is check the oil and fluids. In my razor here, the oil is checked back there. Make sure you're checking your gear oil as well. With most machines, you're just going to pull the plug and make sure the gear oil comes up to the threads. Make sure all your fluids are filled to their capacity. If a buyer comes and checks them out and they're not filled to where they should be, then it could be a sign of how good you take care of your machine and you could lose the buyer. Another thing you'll want to look at is the bushings on your machine. Take a look at the bushings in here in the suspension and make sure they're not worn to the point that there's play or anything else. Give them a shake, make sure they don't slide around, and make sure that there's no crazy wear on any of the wear items, especially as it relates to the suspension on your machine. Another thing that not everyone's going to check, but some people may, is your wheel bearings. It's a common wear item in a side-by-side, so it's something you should probably check so you're not surprised when they bring a jack and check it out. So let me grab my jack and I'll show you how to check for worn wheel bearings. So what you're going to want to do is jack your machine up and move the wheel a little bit. Now I may have to go into time-lapse mode to get this thing to lift up since I have such an awesome 15-year-old 3-ton Husky jack from Home Depot on a Home Depot special. So let me get this jacked up and I'll show you how you need to wiggle to see if the bearings are bad. "15 minutes later, we're off the ground. So let me show you what you need to do to check for play in your wheels. What you want to do is come over your wheel and move it this way and this way to see if there's any play in the wheel. You'll see on this, it doesn't appear that there is any play in the wheel, so the bearings are likely good in this wheel. Let's check the other side. No play in those either. Not everybody's going to bring a jack along and want to do the same thing. It's not a crazy expensive job to do the wheel bearings on these, but it's something that somebody may check, and if they do, you'll want to be prepared for it. While you're back here, you're also going to want to make sure you grease all of your zerk fittings. For those that don't know what a zerk fitting is, they're these little doohickeys right here, and you'll find them throughout your suspension, and basically they allow you to put grease right on the bushings that are inside of your suspension. So make sure you lube those up. I know when I first took this out for a ride, it was a super squeaky ride because there wasn't quite enough grease in those fittings. When I added some grease, it definitely took out a bunch of the squeaks. Still not silent, but much less squeaky. The last thing I want to say on machine prep is if you have those couple small little things on your machine that you just haven't fixed because they really don't bug you, it's probably a good idea to fix those because they may bug somebody else. Couple examples from me, or one example from me anyway. I have one of my door bags that the zipper ripped off, or the zipper tag, or whatever you call it, ripped off. So before I sell it, I added a new zipper tag to make sure that when the person sat in it, whoever the buyer may be, that didn't stand out to them. Small detail, but it's a good idea to fix all those little things so that when a buyer sits in the seat, they don't have an excuse not to buy. All right, after you finish prepping your machine, now it's time to get it listed. I mentioned some of the most common places to list a machine earlier, so let's take a look at a few of those now. One of the most common places to look is Craigslist. Craigslist is a classified ad site that is generally local to your area. Basically, you can go onto Craigslist and you can search for anything. So if I want a Razor Turbo, I can type in Razor Turbo and it will bring up the Razor Turbos that are in my area. Oftentimes you'll see dealers advertising new machines, but you'll also find old machines here as well. It's a great place to find comps and a great place to list your machine. There has been issues in the fairly recent past of fraud on Craigslist, but if you're smart and you don't do PayPal and you don't take calls from India, you should be okay listing on Craigslist. Another place to consider listing is Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace has grown in popularity a ton over the recent past, and you'll find quite a bit of machines listed there. So if you go over to the left-hand side, log in online, you'll see Facebook Marketplace on the left-hand side. Just tap Facebook Marketplace and you could type in anything you want. So say you're looking for an X3RR. Let's see if there's anything in there. So there's a couple X3s there. So you can list it just like this. It'll pop up like this as well, and it'll show you some small details for the machine. When you tap on it, it'll pop up a new one as well, or when you click on it anyway, you can add pictures, give details on the machine as well. And if you wanted to, you could add a link to a video as well so people can find information there. So Facebook is another great place to list your machine and another place where people are looking for them. Okay, the last two here are kind of one and the same. It's OfferUp and LetGo. They're basically the same thing. Oftentimes, if you search for something on one, you'll find the exact same listing on the other. They're basic classified ad sites, and they're relatively self-explanatory. If you want things to be easy, download the app, and you'll be able to easily list and easily communicate with potential buyers. Okay, the last one I want to show you is ATVtrader.com. So ATVtrader.com is another place to go for used ATVs, side-by-sides, UTVs, golf carts, sand rails, basically anything meant for the off-road. It's a good place to go and look for them. It's also a nationwide site, so you'll be able to find things nationwide as well. And if you wanted to list yours nationwide, you could do that. So it's easy to list. You basically just have to sign up for an account. You get 2 free weeks with 4 photos. If you want to do more than that, then it costs. So if you want 6 weeks, it's $30. And if you want 12 weeks, it's $50. So basic with the free, and then additional features if you add more. It's just another place to get exposure for your machine. All right, lastly, it's time to talk about the meat and potatoes, actually getting the deal done. So first and foremost, the best place to meet is at a bank. It's a neutral site. They have a notary there that can notarize a bill of sale, and they can also help with title transfer if there is a bank lien involved. First, let's talk about a deal where you own the machine outright, you have the title in hand, and the customer, or buyer anyway, is paying with cash. And by cash, I mean cash or check or any form of payment that can be done right away. Not PayPal, not these other forms of payment that they may be able to back out of. So if they're paying cash and you have the title in hand, I still highly recommend meeting at the bank. That way you can get your bill of sale notarized. On bill of sale, make sure if you're selling your machine, you get a bill of sale, and that it is notarized properly, especially if you're buying a machine, but also if you're selling a machine. That way, you have documentation as to when you sold the machine and for how much. Another thing you'll want to make sure you do if the title is involved is sign over the title to the new owner. They'll need you to sign it over so they can get a new title when they go to the DMV. All right, now if there is a lien involved, it's a little bit different of a story. So when I bought this machine, there was a lien involved by a credit union in North Carolina. We met at my credit union and I put a new lien on the machine when I bought it. So in order for my bank to do that, they needed the payoff specifically from the lender, the previous lender. They needed to know that payoff amount so they could send that amount to the bank and then the rest to the buyer. Once we had the payoff, the bank pretty much handled the transaction for us. Another benefit of going to the bank is this isn't the first time they've done this before. and they can help you through the process and make it super smooth and simple for you. As for the title, obviously if the guy I'm buying it from has a lien on it, he doesn't have the title in hand. So the credit union or bank can work together to make sure the title gets transferred over properly. One thing my bank did tell me is they have the ability to get a digital title sent over to the DMV, specifically here in Arizona, but I assume it's in other places, within a couple hours. So although they can't produce a title at the bank right away, they can get it to the DMV, likely in time for the person who's buying the machine to get the registration done anyway. So the long and the short of it is, if you're selling your machine, when you do the actual transaction, meet at a bank, meet at a credit union, make sure there's a bill of sale, make sure you know the payoff, and make sure you exchange identification and everything else in case there's issues down the line. So that's it, guys. That's been my experience with buying and selling a machine. I hope this was helpful for you. I don't claim to be a expert in this. I'm not a banker. I'm not a used car salesman or an ATV salesman or a UTV salesman. This has been my experience. These are some of the things that I've looked up and kind of tried to put together for you, so it's kind of all in one place. If you've had a different experience or different thoughts, share them in the comments below. Help us all understand the process a little better. It's one of those things that's a little bit murky, so it definitely helps if we all share the information together down there. With that said, if you've liked what you saw, please like, subscribe, comment, do all that kind of stuff. It really helps us out. Go visit our website and check out the parts and accessories that we have, the swag that we have. It's derangedoffroad.com. It definitely helps us out. With that said, ride safe, pack out what you pack in, and we'll see you on the next one.